Today in our 2006 Winnebago Chalet, we're going to be installing Roadmaster's Rear Anti-Sway Bar. And this is what our sway bar looks like when it's installed. This sway bar is a direct replacement for your original sway bar. It'll offer greater anti-sway properties due to its larger size, so you won't experience as much side-to-side movement when going down the road. This is particularly noticeable on especially windy days and when driving over very bumpy roads with a lot of uneven pavement. So what this really means for you is overall you're going to have a more enjoyable driving experience, and you're going to arrive at your destination with more energy because you weren't fighting the wheel so much. We'll begin our installation underneath the vehicle just in front of our rear axle. We're going to remove our original sway bar. We'll start by removing the end link bolts. You'll find your end link bolts on the side of the frame. We're going to use an 18mm socket to remove those. We'll do the same thing on the other side. We'll now remove our sway bar bushings that hold the sway bar in place. We're going to use a 15mm socket to remove the 2 bolts that hold each bushing on. There's 1 bushing on each side. I've left 1 bolt on each side, just a couple of threads in. That'll make it easier to remove it. It's a pretty heavy bar, so we've got it down here. We're going to support the one side, take the rest of the bolt out, and we'll support the other side and take the other bolt out. We can then drop our sway bar down and set it aside as we won't be reinstalling it. We'll now prepare our sway bar. Take the bushings that come in your kit and the lubricant. We're going to use the lubricant on the inside of the bushing. So we're just going to smear that around until we coat the inside. And I do like to take just a little bit of the excess and put that on the outside. It can help reduce noises and squeaks, just a small amount. After you've lubricated your bushing, we'll place it on the sway bar, spread it open, clamp it around. You can put the bracket on it now, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side of our sway bar. We'll then prepare our hardware. We're going to take the original bolts that held in the bushings on our original sway bar. We're going to slide the smaller flat washers that come in the kit on there, and we're going to use the red Loctite that comes in the kit and place it on the bolt. You'll have 4 of these prepared like this to get your sway bar installed. We can then lift our sway bar into position and start a bolt. I recommend starting at least 1 on each side. Now that you've got 1 on each side, that'll make it easier to install the rest of the hardware because the sway bar will hold itself up. Now we'll put our end links on. We'll take the log bolt that comes in the kit. We'll put flat washer on it. We're going to slide that through the end link. Place a flat washer on the other side. Slide this through our sway bar. Follow that up with another flat washer and a locking nut. You want to make sure that this can rotate upwards as it's going to be installed on the frame there, so make sure you've got that room, and then repeat this on the other side. Next, we're going to need to mark our frame where we're going to have to drill to mount the other end of our end link to the frame. To determine whether you'll want to drill your frame, first you want to lift up on your sway bar until it's parallel with the ground, and then you want to take your arm here and make sure that it's vertical. This is where you'd want to mark for your hole for drilling. Now on our frame here, right at about that spot, there is already an existing hole in the frame, so we're just going to be enlarging that to accommodate the hardware for our end link. We're going to do this on both sides. We'll now enlarge the hole using a 17/64 drill bit. If you didn't have a hole in your frame in the location where you wanted to mount it, then you would just drill out to this size. We can now hold our sway bar up. We're going to take the long bolts just like we did to attach the end link to our sway bar. We're going to slide a washer on the bolt, go through our end link. On the other side of your end link, we're going to place another washer on. Then we're going to line up our end link with the hole that we just drilled out, push our bolt through, and on the inside we'll place on a flat washer followed by a lock nut. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. We can now go back and tighten and torque all of our hardware. We'll begin with our bushing brackets. We're going to use a 15mm socket to tighten them down. Then we'll torque those bolts. to the specifications found in your instructions. We can now tighten down our end link bolts. We're going to use a 19mm socket and wrench to tighten them down. And then you can go back and torque all of your hardware to the specifications found in your instructions. And that completes our installation of Roadmaster's Rear Anti-Sway Bar on our 2006 Winnebago Chalet.